And the detailed project report gets married to the investors on a global scale. And why we do this investment summit here in the City of Angels is because between San Diego and Santa Barbara, in these 200 square miles, the whole world is right here, the corporate world is right here. If you start from San Diego, you have Qualcomm, telecom giant, come down a little bit further, you get biotech giant, you go down further, oil and gas giants, go down further, Hollywood giants, $3 trillion market. That's why we Californians have got the 5th largest economy in the world. And that is what makes it important for us to do the investment summit right here in the City of Angels, because in 200 square miles we have the investment groups, we have the corporate world, everything is right here. So the next speaker that is coming on board is a gentleman called Mark, who is settled in Switzerland, but he is here, he is always on the plane, worldwide traveling. He is going to talk about his firm, and I leave it to him. Mr. Mark, please come forward and introduce yourself, details and all that. Thank you very much for coming.
Before I start my presentation on the company I represent here today, I would like to say a few words. A few words that are about finance, the world, and like all of you have asked me once at least, how do I get the money, how do I get the funds in order to basically achieve my project. The first thing that is important to understand is if you focus on the money, you'll achieve nothing. Because money is never a cause, it's always a consequence. Money is like energy, and this energy cannot be captured. All people who have stored money in a bank can tell you that sometimes they got less when they took it out than when they brought it in. And there is a reason for that. The finance world, and this is something that has given many criticism over me, the finance world has nothing to do with money. And I'm going to explain to you why and how, because I understand that initially this can sound very paradoxal. What is important today is to understand that we are in a world that is given by fear. It's driven completely by fear. Everybody fears. People fear violence, fear losing money, fear COVID, pandemic, what have you. And when people are fearing, they cannot do any enterprise. They are just thinking about what is next bad things that will happen, and this doesn't help growth, it doesn't help enterprise. The problem is that because the spending of our government are endless, they need to have more taxes. And they need to have more taxes, why? Because their spending are endless, and because in no constitution of the world was it ever written budgetary deficit is forbidden. In other words, if you spend more than you have, after some time, somebody knocks on your door, takes away your chairs, takes away your TV, and throws you out of your home. But this doesn't happen to a government. Government have like endless spending. Why do I say that, and why do I start by that? It's because today, before making a project, you have to think about how to overcome the investors' fears. Because the investors' fears will be in front of you. They're going to be your first obstacle. A lot of these fears are coming from the media. Media say, well, there will be a lockdown in September. Did you see a lockdown? No. But did you hear in July and August that in September there was going to be a new lockdown? You certainly heard it. And if you don't believe me, you just have to take a few copies of these newspapers of 2-3 months ago, and you heard it. Why? Because we are in a world that is driven by fear. So, how do I do if I'm a small entrepreneur to get started on financing my company? Well, the first thing that you should do is start by explaining to the investors your story and try to establish a dialogue. If you're pitching something to people who feel good, who want to invest, who are not in fear, you don't need to build a dialogue. You just need to give your pitch, best pitch, and bam, you're going to get a check, or you're going to get an invitation to a due diligence. But if now you're facing somebody who is already fearing, or already fearful, already hesitating, who doesn't know whether he will invest in you or any other company, then you do something different. You need to establish a dialogue with that person. You're going to say, I'm going to build a company. Are you interested? And if the person says, no, or I'm in doubt, or I prefer to stick to my cash, continue the dialogue and say, do you feel your cash is safe? Do you think that the guys who stored their cash at Lehman Brothers felt safe with a 120 years old institution? Do you think that the guy who basically stored their cash at BCCI, were basically feeling safe? Better, from my country, people who stored their cash at Credit Suisse, if they had not been bailed out over 18 billion, safeguard, they would be in bad trouble. So, establishing a dialogue is the first requirement if you want to deal today with an investor. It was not the case in the 90s, it was not the case 5 years ago, and it will probably not be the case 5 years from now. But today, if you want to raise money, it's this. Second thing, I see a lot of projects that come to me, including some that were just shown to me, that start by memorandum of understanding or letter of intent. And it's normal, because when you want to have a government or a public collectivity or somebody to basically commit, you need to have that first step of materializing their intention. The problem is politicians are assholes. And politicians, very often, what do? They're going to give you an intention, then they're going to store it in the cupboard. So how do you do to move from this intention to an actual action? Well, the first thing that you have to do is, in any memorandum of understanding and any letter of intent, you need to have a timeline. And this timeline, must be a condition of validity. Because as soon as they put a timeline, then suddenly you can say to them, hey, you said that it would be for today. So how do we go about it? And if they don't react, go to the media and start saying, Mr. President XYZ promised this, and today we are at the deadline and nothing is happening. They react, politicians react to media. They don't react to legal procedures or to anything else. So why did I start by that? It's because to say to you something very specific. We are not in a normal time. We are in a time of crisis. And what fights crisis better than anything else is communication. Because crisis is never out there, it's in your head. Crisis is in your head. Fear is inside of you, inside of each of us. And that's where we have to fight it. That's why in our team we have a psychologist, and he's very busy. So now I would like to start my presentation. And this is a presentation about an operation that you can quote me and you can verify it, will be probably bigger than Microsoft, Alphabet, or any one of the big companies that he has named before, because it's a market of 138 trillion that we are looking at. This operation is intellectual property securitization. And I'm going to try in the few minutes that are given to me to basically go through it with you. So first of all, what is intellectual property? It can be movies, it can be books, it can be music, it's entertainment, but it's also science with patents and trademark. And why is it important to finance it? Well, right now, it's a sort of private club. Who is financing a patent today? It's certainly not the small inventor. By the way, without paying anything for drafting the patent, if you want to file a patent worldwide, and I'm not talking about the patent cost, I'm just talking about the filing cost. If you want a patent guaranteed worldwide today, your cost is $3.8 million. $3.8 million to have a little inventor protected worldwide. Who is the inventor who can afford that? No one. The only one who can afford that are pharma companies. They are basically a large conglomerate, but certainly not a small inventor. So it's important to be able to finance new movies. It's important to finance movies that matter. It's important to finance music. And it's important also to finance people who are beginning, the future of the children. Why? Because today, let's face it, you can have different tastes and you can love techno music, but that's not really the best, is it? And the reason why we have low quality of the new production and why we do the number 6 or the number 10 of a production of the 80s in movie, and the reason for which we make very little progress in music is simply because there are no more places to train, places where the beginners can produce themselves and still have an audience. In the 70s and 60s and 80s, you had places where live music was given also to amateur group. They were not paid a lot, but they could rehearse and play every weekend. All this is gone. Today we want top professional. A girl who basically is 16 years old has made one song, doesn't know how to read music, has been trained by a coach, is making one hit, and she's considered a superstar. So that's not with that we are going to do. So that's why it's important to finance intellectual property. And let me tell you, if you're part of the fundraising that we do today, which is a $17.6 million, you'll probably make between 40 to 80 times your money. And you can quote me on that. And I can come back next year, and the people who will have put a little money in this could sit with me on that table and verify what I'm saying. So here we go. Initially, our goal is to bring all this in a new market sector on the NASDAQ. We have two things with the NASDAQ. One thing first, we want to do our IPO within the next 6 months of next year, and probably within the first quarter. Second, we want to list the intellectual property securities on this new market sector. The past of the intellectual property securities was just a loan guaranteed by royalties, just like the Bowie bonds that you see on the screen. Then I invented the intellectual property investment trust. It was not such a great invention because basically what I was doing is take a real estate investment trust and change it into an intellectual property investment trust. So I was replacing real estate by intellectual property. What happened afterwards was we decided to go further. We decided that why there would be a trust, why there would be a company, why there would be a chance to spend money. Why couldn't the investor be in direct contact with the consumer? And what we did, and what I invented, was called direct securitization. Direct securitization, basically, it's a movie is not yet made, but you cut it into small pieces of co-ownership. Okay? No stock, no company, just direct co-ownership of that movie. And this movie can get financed. When I contacted the first time in 1998 the SEC, and I asked a simple question, I said, it's written in the 1933 Securities Act that I can list rights. Can I list intellectual property rights? And the answer from the SEC was, you're an idiot. You have not seen that there must be reserve. So reserve means mining. And I said to them, well, I think that reserves can be also fans who basically want to see the next movie or want to see the next song. And it's much more credible to have a direct market than to have an analysis of gold underground. So basically, we did that. We basically have a system that allows all of these various forms of intellectual property to be financed. As you can notice, there are new plants, there are basically circuits layout, there are geographical indications, there are designs, patents, and by the way, designs should interest you, my dear Kevin, because designs include also the design of a new city in India, your famous New York of India. Basically, the sky is the limit in terms of this operation. We basically have put this new system of intellectual property as a system that can be distributed to the market. Why is it interesting? Number one, it removes the human factor. So, even if the company goes bankrupt, you own a piece of the movie. You don't care. If the new chairman spends too much money on his new Ferrari, you don't care. If some people have been secured creditors and want to seize all assets, you own a piece of the movie, you don't care. So most of the drama that have been done through the Hollywood accounting or through the waterfall in the movie industry are ended. This is not a crypto. This is not a token. This is not a tokenization. It's a true legal securitization. And it's important because when a crypto is writing a white paper, what is the link between this white paper and the coin or the token? Answer is no link. A simple contract. There's no legal link. What is the difference with us between our prospectus and our intellectual property securities? The link is a law. It's a real right. It's not a contract to be interpreted. You own it. It goes onto your balance sheet. The market of intellectual property is a huge market. Actually, as I told you, it's about 138 trillion. So it's really something that is big. I'll give you an example because I find it funny. If you go on IBM balance sheet, you see a patent that is worth $1. This patent of $1 is a patent for the floppy disk. Nobody uses floppy disk anymore. Do you agree? No one of you would use a floppy disk today. Yet last year, it generated $78 million because some third world country still use floppy disk. And by the way, if this was listed on an exchange today, that would allow IBM to borrow or to put an asset of 500 million on their balance sheet, because that's about the ratio to the market. And this without increasing their debt and without diluting their shareholders. Could be interesting in a time when cash is a rare commodity on the market. So, our IP securities that we sell to you, or that we would sell to you if you were investors in the movie, they are basically fractional ownership of IP and fractional ownership of revenue generated by IP. But remember, no human being in between. So that means between the box office or between the movies paying the royalties and your account, there's nobody. Actually, the way we want to materialize it is an interesting one. It's what I call the repetitive check. Just imagine a check that doesn't have any amount. A check that has just a percentage. Let's say 1% of Star Wars movie. You put that check on your account in a bank, just like you would do with a normal check. Okay? And as long as that check remains on your account, each time a royalty is paid for Star Wars, you get it on your account. You don't have anything to take care of, and your bank doesn't have to be equipped of any special equipment, doesn't have to do any subscription. It's just automatic through US clearing. What also is very interesting, you can say to me, okay, the bank does not, but what about the rest? What about the movie companies? How do they do to give us the movie? Well, it's very simple. We give them a login and a password, and usually at the end of the movies, they have the credentials. You know, all people who have played, all people who have been part of the technical team, or the cast and crew. And basically, we reproduce that. Just we have a bank account. And some people will be paid a fixed fee, some others will get royalties. But because we are limited to 100%, no possibility to have a crook story. Because if it's more than 100%, we will not securitize it. So everything that happened in the Hollywood accounting of this last century, with all the crook stories and all the mismanagement of funds, is gone. We can also monetize past movies. We cannot only produce new ones, we can basically monetize existing IP, so people who have a catalog of movies and want to do it are welcome. By the way, we are currently, my team is looking at the Indian law to just put the same system in India, and has taken contact with the Indian exchange in order to do the same things that we are doing with the NASDAQ. It's applicable to patent, it's applicable to trademark, and it's applicable to copyright. But it's also applicable to a number of things. Our company is making a lot of systems, a lot of services that allow securitization. We are the only company in the world, due to the patents that we have filed, who has the ability to arrange the issuance of intellectual property securities and provide related service to creators, owners, and operators of intellectual property. For the people who are interested in the legal system, I could go one-on-one about the securitization process. I will not be the one to give you the wish to sleep after the nice lunch that you have today. But there is one thing that I would like to underline for you. The benefits of IP securities are not only something financial. They are marking an evolution that goes towards empowerment and inclusion. Those are big words that are spread all over today. But actually here they are done. They are achieved. Because here, nobody is judging you like in the corporate world where, let's face it, Wall Street doesn't like companies managed by minorities. we can do all programs that we want. Okay, they just don't like it. And nevertheless, Microsoft has an Indian CEO, and yes, I'm half Arab, so don't laugh and don't think that I'm not conscious of the thing. It's something that I say because I've been a Wall Street boy since the age of 19, and I know that. I remember when at the end of the year 2008, I saw a little bit a thing on Bloomberg that shocked me very much. There was a whole list of companies with prices, okay? And I noticed that some companies were written one pixel shorter in size than the other ones. And I asked one of the guys what it was. And everybody said to me, it's nothing, it's nothing, it's nothing. And one day, a guy was making his retirement, and I offered a drink to party for his retirement. And he said, have drunk, Mark, I'll make you a gift. I'll explain to you what is the point, the pixelless. Its company is run by minorities. So this is still a reality today in 2023. And if you look carefully at the Bloomberg screen, just verify what I'm saying.
That's true.
So I will not bother you with a revenue model, nor with a financial projection. All I'm going to say to you is that this company, as you can read it, is basically doing in 2023 over $232 million of EBITDA, and will project about $4 billion 4 years from now. By the way, our IPO will take place with Morgan Stanley, and it is a $1.7 billion IPO, which if you bought shares of our company today, you would make about a 30x on the IPO price. So that's all I wanted to say about the company. This is the use of the funds that we are going to do with the 17.6 million that we are going to raise. And I would like to just use this platform to make an announcement. In 2024, we are going to do, separate from our company, an operation called Perpetual Charity Corporation. Perpetual Charity Corporation will be a company that will not only make charity and be the bank for charity and be a rating agency for charity. If you go on perpetualcharity.com, you're going to see the whole program. But we are trying to call Wall Street, we are going to call Hollywood, we are trying to call the Olympic world, we are trying to call every major community to participate in this operation that will be the largest and the first IPO strictly for charity. And I think that this operation will mark a step forward. This morning, a gentleman who's, I don't know the name, you with the red tie, I don't know the name. You basically tell me your name.
Joseph Collins.
Joseph Collins. This gentleman this morning said something, we are calling all community. And he was talking about the various communities that would be called. And let me tell you something. We all belong to one single community. And this community is called human beings. We should remember that. I thank you for your attention.
Yeah.